Hi all, welcome to BRR Knowledge Center. In this today's session, we'll talk about how to test ASP.NET Web API. So we used to create different kind of services or APIs and how to verify or unit test those services or APIs using Swagger UI. And as like we have different other tools like Postman, Fiddler, and this is open API standards and it has some UI, beautiful UI, which come up with Swagger, where you can see all your endpoints with your HTTP webs, and also you can see the required parameters and the response on request. Let's get to the practical part here. I'm opening Visual Studio, and this is Visual Studio 2022. I'm going to create a new project to demonstrate this Swagger UI testing. And I'm selecting ASP.NET Web Application and click on Next. Here, I'm creating a demo API testing with Swagger. And clicking on Create. And I'm selecting Web API. And you can keep these advanced settings and other settings if you wanted it. And click on Create. And it will take a couple of seconds to create a dummy project where it will provide you the test controllers and as well as the other settings to verify your API. And if you go and open your Solution Explorer, it's already added a controller stuff here, home controller and values controller, and other stuff here, bundle config, filter config, root config, the API config, where the API root is going to have a specific URI path. So using this URI path, you need to access all your endpoints from your controllers. So as we discussed in earlier videos, when you request an API from the client, that request first hit the controller, and controller is going to hit the model, and then model is going to connect your data access layer, DB server, and it will fetch all the required stuff from the DB server, and it will give back to your controller, and that controller is going to connect with your view. If at all, if you wanted to display the standard format of your results on the UI, you definitely required some standard logic, business logic that can be implemented in the view. That is the purpose of view. That view is going to display the results on the UI. So basically, what I'm going to say about the API request is the landing request, the landing phase here in the web API request was a controller. So if you look at here, controller, I have different kind of endpoints here, get, and it is going to return all the values here, and this is the get with a parameter called ID, which is going to give you a single value, and post, put, delete. And similarly, we have a home controller here, which only having index, which will only set the title home page. Okay. Now, if you run this with the already given the project here, it is going to display the default ASP.NET Web API starting page here with a couple of information and things here on the UI. Taking a couple of seconds here. Yep, I got it. So this is what the default UI you will get to see on the UI for any API in the ASP.NET by default. This is the home page, and this is the API stuff, and this is the application name. This stuff here, because the default this is going to hit the home controller where it has index, and that index is going to render the the UI part that is called layout stuff with the default stuff which is being added to your home page. Okay, this is what the index.cs HTML, which is going to have all this stuff on the UI right now, which we are seeing it here. Now, how to unit test or how to verify these controller endpoints, API endpoints. So leave about other stuff and only looking at these controllers. These are having endpoints here. Now, how you are going to verify these endpoints? So if you wanted to get the endpoint stuff here, I think you need to do API.values, where it is going to return the values here. And if you want to return a value here, it is going to like one. No type was found, the must controller value. Okay, let's talk about this values. Now it is going to return value. So based on the given value. So these are the endpoints we have right now here, which is get, which is going to return all the values. Here with the parameter get, it is going to return only single value. Fine. Now to demonstrate this Swagger unit testing using Swagger UI, we need to add a buckle, swashbuckle namespace here. Just go to references and go to your NuGet package manager here and select browser and search for swashbuckle. This is the namespace and the library you need to be installed using NuGet package manager. This is what you need to select here. Swashbuckle combines API Explorer and Swagger UI to provide a rich discovery and documentation and playground experience to your API consumers. Select this and click on install. It is going to install the required libraries to your project here, demo API testing with Swagger project. And once it is installing it, all the required assemblies get installed and added to your references here. So still it is installing and I need to wait for a couple of seconds here. It's looking for the dependencies and look for the other libraries as part of swashbuckle, and it is going to install it. Okay. And once you install this, it is going to add a reference here in your project in the references section, and also it is going to add Swagger config CS file where you have a Swagger UI related information. Okay, let's take it. Still taking. Okay. And it's going to take another couple of seconds here. And the benefit of this swashbuckle was it's an open source standard where you can add into any API project in ASP.NET and can see all your endpoints on the UI, and you can directly go to your endpoint and you can test it your endpoint very quickly and easily without having a knowledge on your API. You can verify it using this swashbuckle. So now all the things have been installed. Now you go and check here in the references. It is going to add swashbuckle core. This is the namespace, right? And also it is going to add this swagger config.cs file. So this is the file where the Swagger UI stuff has been defined here. If you look at here, this is what Swagger UI definition part in this method, registered method, enable Swagger, which is having root URL. You can mention it here, and this is what schemes, and this is what a single API version. If you want, you can give here the title of your application, demo API testing with Swagger. And here, if you want, or if you have multiple versions, you can uncheck this and uncomment it, and you can specify the number of versions you have on this API. And this is about authentication stuff, like basic authentication or API key or OAuth stuff. If you wanted to give it as part of header in the request, and can see the stuff how it is travels into API server, you can see everything based on this stuff if you can enable it here. And so a lot of stuff here you can see one by one. Once you get confident about this Swagger UI integration to your API, right? So once you get all this stuff here, enable Swagger UI, and here also you have a couple of things here, and we'll see one by one the coming sessions. And once you get this, just run your application and see this how it is looks like the UI. So, and basically this Swagger UI, you need to access using a Swagger controller. So type Swagger and UI slash index. Now it is going to display the Swagger UI here, right? This is the documentation stuff which by default gives by Swagger, and this is the API key which I explained you in the Swagger config.cs file. If you are having any API key, you can mention it here. And this is what the title of your API, demo API testing Swagger. And this is my controller where I have my endpoints here. You can see here, this is values, and this is values with ID, and values with ID, and values with ID. So get method, post method, delete, and again get, and again this put method. So this is very simple to integrate Swagger UI to your web API and can verify with easy way, right? So if you click on this particular API values, you can see like what is the response class, and example of model you can see here. This is inline model, which is returning a string here of application JSON type. And if you want to try it, just click on try it. This is going to tell you this is the curl command, and the request is going like this in the way, this API and values. And the response body is having value 1 and value 2, and the response status code was 200. This is why the response header, which is having attributes like cache control, content length, and content type, date, expires, pragma, and server access, version, export by index source files. All these attributes are by default adding to your response header. And also, if you look at the other method called get API values based on the value ID. If you can see here, ID is the parameter which is expecting here. And if you can see here, ID as parameter, and the value is required here. And if you can try out, it is asking a value, and press 1 and again click on try out. Now it is going to give you the value as a value, right? And again, same format of response code and response header, everything is same. This way, I think you can see very clearly like how the request is going and what the request is going to server, and how the response is processing and the response is returning back to a client, the proper coding, HTTP status code, and the response header. Okay, so, and you can expand it, and you can do whatever, hide or list operations or expand operations, whatever you want it. You can do all these operations in your controller. Okay, now, so going back to the solution. So what is the other advantage of Swagger UI? One is unit testing. I mean, testing of your endpoints. Like as I mentioned it, like if you want to test it, you can just give one and try it out. It is going to give you the value. Now, another thing was, if you wanted to mention the definition of your endpoint, you can specify the definition in your code, and that comments or description will get reflected here. If you can modify the Swagger stuff a little bit. Just closing this and going back to this, and here, go to your controllers here, and just give some comments here. I'm just giving some comments to my endpoints, get values, and it doesn't have any return statement here. Go back to here. Again, this is get the specified ID value. Here, the ID was input parameter, and this is mandatory. I'm expecting this parameter must pass to this endpoint. And similar way, you can specify this one, what you call, this is expecting parameter as a value, and this is for a save. Okay, save values. If you wanted to give save values, and in similar way, I think you can give this as update values. And for update also, these are mandatory for this endpoint, mandatory, and this also mandatory. And going back to this one, this is again HTTP delete values, and this is also expecting ID as the mandatory field. Now, go and check here. I already mentioned the comments of each endpoint here. Now see like how it is fetch all these comments and showing on my Swagger UI. So yep, this is the default one, and you can again go to swagger.ui.index. Now click on values. Oops, I didn't see any comments here. Okay, go back to your swagger config .cs file here, and you have XML comments and document, and that is in Swagger UI, and you can search here. This is what include XML comments, and it is throwing some exception, and try to implement this method, and click on here, show potential, generate method. Okay, I think it is added in the last, and just check here, and I'm going to return the path here of my output, the XML document output path. Before this, go to properties of your project and go to your build, and here just check this option XML documentation file, and copy this particular file, and go to your Swagger config CS file here, return system dot domain, current domain, and base directory place, and I'm giving this path. Fine. Still exception. Oh, this must be a string type. I'm changing the return type string. Now build this, and you open Swagger UI now. Just opening Swagger UI right now, and now Swagger UI.index, and if you can see the UI, this is a values. Yeah, I see the comments here. This is what I mentioned, get values. That way I think the tester can see, oh, this endpoint purpose was getting of values, and this is for saving of values, and this is for deleting of values, and this is for getting of specified ID related value, and this is for updated value. And you can give it any length of a name, description, the summary of your endpoint that is going to display here. And as this method is not having any parameters, hence it is not showing anything here. And go to this one, and go get method. And if you look at here, ID as a parameter, here in the description, you can see mandatory. That is what I mentioned it in my summary stuff and endpoint, right? And this parameter type was path. That means you need to pass this, or it is going to pass via a path. This ID parameter value is going to pass via path, URI path, right? The data type was integer. Now try it out and say something, and it is going to execute. If you look at here, this is the path. So the parameter is passing. So in the URI path, right? So in a similar way, I think you can see delete here also having ID parameter, and for the update, you have two parameters here, and ID and value. I mentioned it mandatory, and this value is passing via body, not a path. Okay. So this is how the things are looks like, very excellent, and having a beautiful UI for all your endpoints here. And it is very easy for the tester or the developer to see like endpoints all are displaying in one place, having different looks and comments, and that is how it is generating stuff on the UI for easy understanding and easy testing it. Even you can see our response and the stuff here, and that way I think the tester can see like what needs to be passed and what is coming from the response. All this stuff you can see it here. That way I think it is having good look and appearance on screen with using a Swagger. So I hope you understand the integration part of Web API with Swagger, and you can see all the stuff which is displaying on the UI in a brilliant way, right? This is what title, I think you can still you can change the title as well here, as I mentioned here, this is what the title, and that title you can change it still you if you want to showcase something like demo API testing, or testing demo API, or testing API endpoint, and you can run and you can see that easily can be reflected on the Swagger UI, and that way you can give a meaningful name to your API and you can see same thing on the Swagger UI. So just give a Swagger UI index, and yeah, this is how it looks like. So this is all about integrating a Swagger UI to your API, and can see all your endpoints on the screen of a Swagger UI index page, and can easily verify it here, and can see the input parameters and the output parameters of your endpoints. I hope you understand the Swagger UI integration to your API, and seeing and extracting of your endpoint summary here, and input parameters and output parameters stuff which is having inside of your API. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe this channel for more videos. Thank you.